Did you know a little over 100 years ago, they tried to impose an income tax and the Supreme Court came out and said, what are you talking about? This is completely unconstitutional.
Taxes, taxes, taxes. If you are making money with your investments, you're going to have to pay taxes. But if you truly want to become a wealth builder, then you have to avoid paying taxes legally at all costs. Remember, it's not how much you make, but it's how much you keep. I'm Afro Senpai, and I hope to make everybody feel comfortable and confident with investing by documenting my own wealth building journey in becoming financially independent. By the end of the video, you're gonna know why avoiding taxes is exactly what the founding fathers would have wanted you to do, as well as strategies that you can be implementing to reduce your tax bill. Let's go. Real quick before we begin, I am not a CPA, I'm not a CFP, whatever. I'm just telling you information that I know based off my experience of building wealth for over half a decade. Here are some strategies that I implement in my personal portfolios. One of the most straightforward, least difficult tax strategies that you could implement is just holding your positions for more than a year and a day. There's something called long-term capital gains tax, and that's basically saying if you hold your position, let's say you hold Tesla for 366 days, then on the next day, if you decide to sell, you'll be paying lower taxes than if you sold 9 months after buying it. If you buy and sell a position within 1 year, that is called a short-term capital gains tax, and you will be taxed on the profits. The reason I say a year and a day is, let's say my platform calculates their calendar in a different way than the IRS does, and I have this strategy of reducing my debt by holding for more than a year. If I do a year and a day, I'm playing it safe because I would hate to pay extra in taxes just because two different platforms aren't calculating an entire year the same way. So I just do a year and a day or more to be on the safe side. Now, I will say this, some people think that no matter what happens, you're gonna get taxed. No, you're only taxed on your gains. So for instance, if I bought company X at $75 and then company X a couple months later went to $80, then I have to pay taxes on the $5 capital gain increase if I chose to sell. Now, the flip side of that is, let's say I still bought in to company X at $75 and a month later it drops down to $65. I now have a capital loss if I sell, which leads me into my next strategy. You can write off capital losses. What does that mean? Let's say company Y has blown up for me and got me an extra $100 in capital gains that I have to pay in taxes. But I notice that I have company X who has lost, let's say, $75 for me. I could sell company Y, giving me a $100 tax bill to deal with. And I can also sell company X, which gave me a $75 capital loss, which can then be deducted from the $100 gain. So now if I'm doing 100 minus 75, I only have to pay taxes on $25 of actual capital gain. So if you have a company that's doing really, really well for you and you have a company that's doing really horrible for you, sell them both to offset each other and lower your taxes. The next tax saving strategy is selling things gradually. Let's say you know that you are going to be in a lower tax bracket because you may be taking a pay cut, or you may be taking less hours next year, or you may be switching jobs and you know that the job is going to pay less. Wait to sell your big blow up situations until you've entered that new tax bracket, because the amount of taxes that are being taken out of something depends upon your actual tax bracket, and your tax bracket depends upon how much money you're getting. So let's say I'm making 100K this year, but I know I'm dropping down to about 50K next year. I'm gonna wait till next year to sell my blow up situations because I'll be in a lower tax bracket and therefore pay lower taxes on my capital gains. And speaking of switching up, the other strategy is taking advantage of those tax advantage accounts that may be offered to you via your employer. So if your employer has a 401k for you, you can take advantage of those deferred taxable accounts. If you have an employer that offers medical and you can do a high deductible plan with a HSA, your HSA is a triple tax advantage savings account. But that's another video for another day. And if you're in the States, anybody can be doing a Roth IRA, which is a tax advantage account, because you're already using money that's been taxed to fund that particular account. So when you go to retire, all those blow-up-tuations will not be taxed because you're using money that's already been taxed. If you're from a non-US country, just Google United States Roth IRA equivalent for insert your country and see if they have something similar. And my last tax saving strategy for you is this. If you have a position that has just blown up tremendously for you, I'm talking about over 100K gains, and you know that if you have to sell everything at once, you're gonna have a pretty hefty tax bill on your hands. So what do? We sell gradually. Instead of selling off 10,000 shares or whatever, sell 1,000 or sell 500. Do smaller amounts so the actual tax bill doesn't hit you all at once, but rather we're doing something in woodworking called relief cuts. We are giving a little slice. Instead of ripping the Band-Aid off completely in one fell swoop, we're just doing little tugs at it every single year until it's finally off. Am I making sense? Let me know in the comments if I'm making sense, and if you're still watching, write in the comments Patriots, because as wealth builders, we know that we should legally avoid paying taxes. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. When I was younger, I thought paying taxes is just something that you had to do. People don't like it, but you have to do it because I didn't know any better. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem paying taxes from my regular check that I receive from being a math teacher. Even though I do have ways to reduce that tax bill, I'm more referring to the investments that I make, risks that I take to get those investments. When the government starts wanting to get their hands into that, then it starts to feel a little scammy, and I want to implement as many tax saving strategies as I can to keep the majority of my profits. And I feel as an American, it is my responsibility, it is my duty to pay as little taxes as possible. I realize it's more patriotic to avoid paying taxes legally because remember, back in the day, we went to war over taxes. And most of us know about the Boston Tea Party, but check out some other facts that you may not have known.
Did you know a little over 100 years ago, they tried to impose an income tax, and the Supreme Court came out and said, what are you talking about? This is completely unconstitutional. This is the Pollock versus Farmers. Pollock ends up winning. 1913. You know what we do? We announced the Federal Reserve, and we introduced the income tax. You know when? Exactly a year before World War I. The U.S. government collects roughly $4.7 trillion in gross taxes. Do you know what percentage of those taxes is from tariffs that we get from other countries? You know what the number is? Only $80 billion. You know 100% of the money, the taxes, that the U.S. government collected just a little over 100 years ago was from tariffs. If you look at this chart, 16th Amendment, what's that? We want to be able to tax your income. Are you serious? Yes, but it's small. Yeah, it's really introducing a gradual income tax with rates of 1 to 7% for people making over $500,000 a year. All right, okay, maybe we'll do this a little bit again, because maybe there's a war going on because it's World War I? Yes, but it's going to go away. Yeah, of course it's going to go away. No problem. Now watch this. They looked at the World War I. They said, whoa, this time around they weren't saying anything about it. Look at this stuff, the taxes. We need another war. If we have another war, what could happen? Chart, what do you notice? 1930-39, 10% of GDP. But look at next year, World War II, 28%. And it stayed above that for God knows how long, and now at 37% and higher, because we officially accepted that it's okay to pay income taxes. In 1939, only 4 million people filed taxes. Total revenue, $900 million. So now they're like, wait a minute, if we can tax these guys, let's just see how much more we can collect. All of a sudden, like, dude, this is great. In 1943, just 4 years later, 41 million people filed taxes. More than 10 times. How much revenue? 13 billion. 2 years later, 43 million people filed taxes. The government all of a sudden raised $45 billion. And they sat there and they said, this is brilliant. They're no longer bitching about it, guys. They have accepted the fact that this country got started fighting taxes. They forgot about their own history. Look at this. This is awesome.
So what are we going to do about this tax dilemma? So in 2024, I'm preparing for the taxes that I'll accumulate in 2025 that I'll then file in 2026. You got to be 2 steps ahead of everything if you're truly dedicated and interested in building your wealth. I said it before and I'll say it again. This is not checkers, it's chess. If you are still here and watching, I really appreciate that. As a content creator, we know that people will watch the first 5 seconds or get the exact piece of information that they wanted to hear and then click off. So from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate you watching and staying to the end because it means a lot to me. If you found value in the video, please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to pay that like tax. I have a goal of monetizing my channel sooner rather than later. So if there's any questions that you have about investing, or because you know that I'm on my journey of building my wealth, if you have any questions about that, let me know and I will do my best to answer them. And feel free to share this with others who are investing as well, but they don't really know any tax strategy. But we all know that we can benefit from having more tools in our toolbox when it comes to reducing our tax bill. And until the next one, remember to smile because you are beautiful. Peace.